Hello and welcome. First of all, big thank you for enrolling into this course. If I had the opportunity to call each by their own first name, I will, to say thank you. I worked hard enough to deliver you the best of the best, and that way you will never regret your choice. Well, before we start, contemplate this beautiful sedation. Our food should be our medicine, and our medicine should be our food. Now, when someone asks you what is a calorie, what is carbohydrate, what is protein, what is an amino acid, what is fat, what is muscle, what is a hormone, what is a vitamin, what is energy, what is health, what is nutrient, what is fitness, what is nutrition, and many other definitions that are very important to know before we go further in this course. Because in fact, very few people can define these words. The question is, how can you gain a full and proper understanding of the subject when you don't understand the words used to explain it? I took care in putting together these keywords to build up your understanding as you go from section to another. And I think so that you will find the learning very smoothly. So let's get started. Nutrition is the set of processes by which a living being transforms food to ensure his, her, or its functioning. It is a science that analyzes the relationship between food and health. When we talk about nutrition, we talk about two things, micronutrients and macronutrients. I will open here a small bracket. I love to open small brackets from time to another to explain more. So, what is nutrient? Nutrient is an invisible substance contained in a food and it provides nutrition essential for life and growth. So, let's come back to micronutrient. We find vitamins, which are divided into fat soluble and water soluble, and minerals, trace elements. We are going to talk about each one in detail in the next sections. When it comes to macro or macronutrients, we find or we talk about protein, carbs or glucide, and lipid or fat. We can unfortunately fall into the negative side of nutrition, which is malnutrition. We talk about quantity in case of insufficient or excessive consumption. When it comes to quality, we talk about, for example, industrial products and acids. There are several consequences of malnutrition. When it comes to quantity, we can fall in obesity, which implies low self-esteem, depressive, and anxiety disorders, as well as gynecological, digestive, neurological, and metabolic disorders. We can as well fall in the opposite side, which is thinness, that implies deficiencies. When it comes to quality, we can fall in bad health, metabolic disorders, acidity, diabetes, and cancer. Now, let's see some general recommendations that you may have been told since childhood. Eat in peace. Take your time. Chew enough. Note carefully the sensation, like color, taste, smell, texture. Eat sitting. Don't skip meals. Eat at regular time and eat from everything, like variability that implies vegetables, fruits, seeds, beans, and nuts. We cannot surpass the ideal composition of our meal when we tackle the subject of nutrition, which is 15% protein, 30% lipid, and 55% glucide, plus minerals, trace elements, and vitamins, which are found in water and food. Well, are you supposed to eat this way? To answer this question, let's take a concrete example. When I want to maintain my weight, I'm not talking about gaining muscles or losing weight. We're going to undertake this topic more in detail later You are going to learn how to calculate your calories, your macro intake, if you want to lose weight or to gain muscle, and more other things. Well, but here I am talking about if you want a healthy lifestyle or maintain your weight. This can be the best option to define your macro intake after calculating your daily calories. In my case, I opt for 20% protein, 50% glucose, and 30% of fat. That's to tell you that's not an exact science. You can make small changes according to many factors that can be your health status, your age, gender, and etc. And that's totally fine. We are going to talk in this part about the macronutrients and as well the glycemic index. Carbohydrates are chemical elements composed of carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen. Carbohydrates are important nutrients for energy and for building cells in the body. The word carbohydrate is formed by carbo, which means carbon, and hydrate, which means water. There are two types, simple carbohydrate and complex carbohydrate. Simple carbohydrate is a very simple form of sugar that is usually sweet tasting and is broken down into glucose very quickly. We have candy, white bread, dairy products, some pasta, and certain fruits are high in simple carbs. Complex carbohydrate is made up of many molecules of simple carbs linked together. Because of this, it takes the body longer to break it down into glucose. Well, let's open our brackets again and define what is glucose. Glucose is a very simple sugar that is an important energy source in living things. Most carbohydrates are broken down in the body into glucose, which is the main source to fuel for all cells. Well, now we close our brackets and come back to some examples of food high in complex carbs. We have bananas, lettuce, tomatoes, oatmeal, brown rice, avocado, and beans. There is another category of glucoside which is starch. Starch is a complex carbohydrate that is found naturally in many fruits and vegetables and is sometimes added to other foods to thicken them. In its pure form, it is a white powder. Starch is an important source of energy for the body. Although starch is a complex carb, some particular foods high in starch break down into glucose quickly like a simple carbs would. We have potatoes, corn, bread, all contain starch. We classify carbs according to their glycemic index. That means depending on their hyperglycemic effects. Glycemic index is a scale that measures the effect of different carbs on one's blood sugar level. Carbs that break down slowly and release glucose into the blood slowly are low on the GE. Carbs that break down quickly will release glucose into the blood quickly, causing insulin levels to suddenly spike. These are high on the GE. Below 55 on the GE is considered low. Between 55 and 70 is considered moderate. And above 70 is considered high. Fats are the densest energy available to your body. Each gram of fat contains over twice of calories of a gram of carbs or protein. Fats or lipids are stored in our body through triglycerides. These reserves allow to provide energy to our body during a long-term after a prolonged fast or even between two meals. We call it interprandial phase. They allow the transport of fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. They form the membranes of our cells, and they participate in the synthesis of certain substances such as hormones. We have three essential fatty acids. They are needed for many important bodily functions. The first, omega-3 or polyunsaturated fatty acid. We find alpha-linoleic acid, eicosahexaenoic acid, and eicosapentaenoic acid. When it comes to rule or benefits, omega-3 is essential for brain and eye development, essential for last 3 months of pregnancy, feeding the baby during the first 2 years of his life, decreases inflammation, decreases risk of heart disease, and decreases risk of chronic disease. When it comes to source, omega-3 found in fish, salmon, tuna, seafood, nut oil, and some plants. The second essential fatty acid is omega-6 or polyunsaturated fatty acid as well. We find linoleic acid and gamma linoleic acid. When it comes to rule, omega-6 are good for brain function, growth, stimulates skin and hair, bone health, and increases inflammation. When it comes to source, omega-6 found in seed, nuts, cereals, green vegetables, olive oil, wheat germ, grapeseed, pistachio, and sesame oil. The last one is omega-9 or monounsaturated fatty acid. We find oleic acid. When it comes to rule, it decreases heart disease, it has immune function, flexible arteries, and it boosts memory. When it comes to source, omega-9 found in avocado, pecan nut, cashew nut, almond, hazelnut, pistachio, chia seeds, olive, and olive oil. Saturated fatty acid. This is the most misunderstood fatty acid. They say always it is the one of the unhealthy fats, but actually our bodies need saturated fats as well. They are found in food like butter, palm and coconut oils, cheese, and red meat. We cannot deny that too much of saturated fats in your diet can lead to heart disease and other health problems. Hopefully, we will discuss your fat daily intake in your diet in the next lessons. Now, let's go to trans fat. Trans fat is a scientifically modified form of saturated fat that has been engineered to give food longer shelf lives. Many cheap packaged food are full of trans fat, such as popcorn, yogurt, and peanut butter, as are many frozen foods such as frozen pizza, packaged pastries, cakes, etc. Fried food are often cooked in trans fat as well. This type of fat is bad news, and eating too much of it can lead to all kinds of disease and complications. It has no nutritional value for the body and thus should be avoided altogether. Here we are in the third and last macro, which is protein. Proteins are the building blocks of the body, building blocks of muscles, bones, hair, nails, skin, also hormones, enzymes, and antibodies, made from a group of 20 amino acids. 12 amino acids are non-essential. 8 others are said to be essential. Isoleucine, leucine, valine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, tryptophan, and threonine. Arginine, taurine, and histidine are said to be semi-essential. Protein has structural role. For example, when we talk about actin and myosin, which are globulin found in muscle, and connective tissue when we talk about collagen, it has as well energetic role. 1 gram releases 17 kilojoules. And also it has functional rules when we talk about enzymes, hormones, and antibodies. When it comes to sources, protein are found in meat, fish, eggs, cereal, and dry vegetable. In this part, we are going to talk about the micronutrients. Well, let's have a small reminder about what we are talking about. I bet you all remembered this table. When we talk about the micronutrients, that implies vitamins and minerals. Let's start by vitamins. Vitamins are organic compounds of low molecular weight, different from carbs, fat, and protein, essential for the proper functioning of the organism. Vitamins are non-energetic molecules that control a very large number of metabolisms, control of several vital processes by acting as coenzymes or as antioxidants. They are molecules not synthesized by the body or insufficiently synthesized, like vitamin D can be synthesized after exposure to the sun. They are needed in very small amount. Vitamins are very different particles from each other. Each has its own structure, its own activity, and various sources. They are classified into two groups according to their solubility. Fat-soluble vitamins, which are A, D, E, and K, and water-soluble vitamins, we find group B vitamins and vitamin C. Well, let's talk about some general facts about vitamins. Freezing doesn't affect vitamin content. Soaking and storage removes water-soluble vitamins. Practically, there is no reserve form for them with the exception of vitamin B12. On the other hand, the fat-soluble vitamins can be stored and are eliminated slowly with a risk of hypervitaminosis, especially for vitamin A and D. Heat destroys vitamin C. Fat-soluble vitamins are absorbed with fat, like when taking a fatty meal. Last point we are going to discuss about vitamins before jumping into minerals is some foods known as antivitamins. We have avidin prevents the absorption of B8, it is found in a raw egg white, and thiaminase destroys B1 found in flesh of freshwater fish. And lastly, coumarins are anti-vitamin K anticoagulants. Minerals. Most are found in unlimited quantity in nature, in the water of rivers, lakes, and oceans. They are found in many food of plants origin as well as in mineral water or in water source. There are 22 in total, which make up about 4% of our body mass, and which are classified into two categories. A few milligrams of minerals are necessary for the body, but they can make the difference between health and disease. When it comes to minerals' role at the metabolism level, they are part of the composition of enzymes and hormones. At the level of structure of the organism, they play a key role in the constitution of bones and teeth. At the level of functions of the organism, they contribute in the maintenance of cardiac rhythm, the muscular contractions, the neuronal conductivity, and the acid-base balance. They control acid-base balance. They regulate metabolism, facilitate energy release. They control as well the water balance, osmotic pressure, supply of oxygen to body cells, and finally catalyze many metabolic reactions. We have major minerals or macroelements and trace elements or microelements. Major minerals, essential to the body in moderate quantities, require intakes greater than 100 mg per day, that means 0.2 gram to 10 gram per day. There are 7 different, which are calcium, magnesium, sodium, chlorine, potassium, phosphorus, and sulfur. When it comes to microelements, they are found in trace element and together represents less than 15 gram of the total body mass. They are 15 in total, among which appear mainly we find iron, zinc, copper, fluorine, iodine, chromium, and selenium. There are a lot of misconceptions about cholesterol and the role that it plays in the health of our hearts and beyond. Cholesterol is a perfectly innocent steroid, a combination of a steroid and alcohol very essential for many important bodily functions. Half of the body's cholesterol is produced by synthesis and the rest is supplied by the average food ration. The body tightly regulates the amount of cholesterol in the blood by controlling internal production. When we eat more cholesterol, we produce less and vice versa. The liver synthesizes about 10% of total cholesterol. Almost any tissue containing nucleated cells can synthesize cholesterol. When it comes to cholesterol rules, it is the precursor of corticosteroid hormones. That means it is needed to make steroid hormones such as sex hormones including estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and corticoid hormones. It repairs damaged cells and maintains the integrity of the cell to extend cell life. It transfers nutrients to the brain to protect from dementia, and it maintains the integrity of the intestinal tract. It also helps with serotonin receptor firing, which is essential for feeling happy, fabulous, and on the top of our game. And it assists with vitamin D uptake, which is essential for healthy bones and nerves, muscle tone, insulin production, fertility, and a strong immune system. Cholesterol also plays a huge role in combating systemic inflammation. To be transported in the bloodstream, cholesterol enlists the help of lipoproteins. LDL, low-density lipoprotein, and HDL, high-density lipoprotein. Cholesterol is carried by these lipoproteins from the liver and gut to the rest of the body and back again. The LDL transports cholesterol, triglycerides, and fat-soluble vitamins. Some biochemical change happens in LDL which is no longer recognized. LDL increases the risk of heart disease and atheroma plaque formation, hence the name bad cholesterol. HDL discharge arteries and extra hepatic tissue of cholesterol and bring it back to the liver where it is broken down. HDL is associated with better cardiovascular health, hence the name good cholesterol. If we take a few seconds to contemplate this small table, lungs contains 78% of water, kidney 83%, blood 79%, brain 76%, muscles 75%, bone 22.5%, and adipose tissue 10%. Here you understand the importance of water in our health and in our entire lives. Water content depends on several factors. Water content is more increased in men than in women. Water content is more increased in skinny than in fat. Water content decreases with age. It will gradually be replaced by fat. When it comes to water role, water provides thermoregulation. It provides the transport of nutrients, hormones, enzymes, and oxygen. It provides as well the elimination of metabolic waste, urine, and sweating, ensuring chemical reactions to provide energy for muscle contraction. It fits into the composition of joints and organs. Water balance depends on many factors like renal regulation, thirst, sweating, habits, and food. When it comes to water benefits, water detoxifies the body. It reduces the risk of diabetes and cholesterol. It improves metabolism. It purifies the colon, purifies the lymphatic system. It reduces the body acidity. It has also a role in skin and hair health. It prevents aging. It prevents also kidney stones, and it strengthens the immune system. Here we come to the fabulous table which embodies the consequences of dehydration and hyperhydration. As you can see, the column of the consequences of dehydration is much longer than that of the consequences of hyperhydration. That is to say, never leave yourself dehydrated. When supply less than exit, in other words, water outlets from cell, it will result in a decrease in cell volume to maintain a blood balance, a decrease in intracranial pressure, headache, convulsion, coma, and it can even go to death. And of course, lots of other symptoms that you can endure during dehydration like tiredness, lack of energy, high blood pressure, etc. I invite you to stop this video right now and read carefully those consequences. You are hyperhydrated when supply more than exit, in other words, water entering the cell. That leads to an increased intracranial pressure, headache, convulsion, confusion, and coma. When it comes to our need for water, it differs according on age, sex, health, sports activity, and other factors like climate and genetics of the persons. Until 4 years old, the recommended daily intake is from 0.7 to 0.9 liters. From 5 to 14 years old, intake of 1 to 1.7 liters per day is recommended. For men, 2 liters and 1.6 liters for women, equals to 8 glasses in general. For seniors, they often have no feeling of thirst, so we have to remind them. Women pregnant should drink 2 liters, and when she is feeding with milk her baby, her intake goes to 2.3 liters. And generally, our water intake increases in summer because of the heat and sweating. For athletic, daily quantity plus 0.5 to 1 liter. It can be split during exercise. Water will dissipate heat during sport, transport of oxygen and nutrient to muscles, and it decreases cardiac frequency. All I can tell you, these recommendations don't work at 100% for all people because we are genetically different. You can even find other recommendations based on body weight. So, arguably, better method to ensure you are adequately hydrated is drinking according to thirst and auto-regulating your water intake by visually assessing the color of your urination. This scientific, validated chart can be used to assess your current hydration status. If your urine color falls within 1 to 3, you are well hydrated. But if it is 7 or higher, you are dehydrated and you should drink more water. However, be aware that the acute effect of some vitamins and multivitamins on urine color that can throw this assessment off. And also, don't take into account the first urination in the morning because it is very concentrated. To sum up, use the recommendation table I just mentioned and combine it with this validated chart. Basal metabolic rate. In this lecture, we are going to undertake what is anabolism, catabolism, what is basal metabolic rate, or what is your BMR, factors that increase your BMR, factors that decrease your BMR, and finally, how to count your BMR. We talk about anabolism when we talk about construction, set of reactions that synthesize molecules, assimilation of nutrient by the body for its synthesis, and it is a set of metabolic pathways that use ATP produced by catabolism to synthesize complex biomolecules, cell, and tissue construction. On the other hand, catabolism is degradation, destruction, a process of transforming into energy that which has been assimilated by the organism to provide energy. It is a release of energy by oxidation, and it is in ATP production. BMR represents the minimal work to ensure vital functions: heart, breathing, brain, temperature. BMR represents 50 to 70% of caloric expenditure per day. BMR decreases with age by 2% per decade of age. That means we burn less and less, hence the weight gain. At night, we continue to live. The muscles practically don't work, but the heart beats. The liver purifies the blood and makes reserves. The kidneys produce urine from the blood, and the blood circulates. The intestine continues the digestion. We breathe, that means our lungs are working. We dream, that means our brain is working. All these requires energy. Energy to exit only is the basic metabolism. When it comes to factors that increase your BMR, we have physical activity, bodybuilding, hyperthyroidism, split meals, and protein meals. Factors that decrease your BMR are muscle loss, aging, hypothyroidism, sleep, and sedentary lifestyle. Well, the bottom line is BMR represents the number of calories required to keep your body functioning at rest. To get your BMR, simply input your weight, height, and age on the accordingly equation if you are man or woman. Do you need to write this equation and calculate it by yourself? Hopefully no. You can easily use an online calculator. You only have to type BMR calculator on Google and then you go.